So you got the Serge Nubret workout. That's the short rest periods, maintaining the same load, banging out set after set. You're not doing as many sets as in. You'll kind of cap
Yeah.
it at like five,
Well,
3 to 5
in
kind of
my
thing.
lane, if you know what I mean, I might have done a couple of extra sets or a little bit more weight. So on the bench press, for instance, I was doing 5 sets of 12 with it. This week I did 5 sets of 10 with it, but I added a little bit more poundage just to make that a little bit more challenging. You know what I mean? And instead of maybe
Yeah.
doing 5 sets of chins, did 6 sets of chins. That last set was murder. And yeah, he did quite a lot of rest pause in there as well. So he might be doing leg curl, for instance. And if he don't get his 15, he pauses a little bit and then carries on to get his rep goal. The last one, when we go to New York, and then I'll be on the Frank Zane one, which I've done in the past a little bit. I really admire Frank Zane, but his is a push-pull legs workout. So it'll be chest, shoulders, triceps. And again,
Mm.
I'll do that, but keep it in my lane over the 3 days, not do as much. But there's some exercises, what Frank did, which I'll use. Danny Padilla did some. Chris Dickerson did some different ones, and he was a very, very strict trainer. So when we come to Chris Dickerson's workout, it will be super strict. Not that we don't train strict now, but it'll be even stricter. Dial the technique right in on that. So you're sort of using each person as a guiding light, so to speak. And then when I get to the end of it, sort of, I might pick somebody else, or I might sort of, as my friend said, my friend Dan, he said, so you might get to the end of this and think, well, which one was more productive for me? And go back to that.
With how Serge Nubret was doing it, so was it like the last set is the most challenging, right?
Yeah, it's most challenging for him. He might have to rest
Yeah.
pause the last few reps. That's was how he did it. Another little trick on this is when I come to the 5th week, which is this weekend I'll start on the Padilla one. So I'll structure that and it might start with legs this weekend. Now you get a little bit of recovery time with that because you're feeling your way with this routine. So by accident, it gives you a little bit of a deload. So over these 5 weeks with the Serge Nubret one, I've stepped up the intensity and it's got quite hard, towards the end, but not enough that it's getting my nervous system because I'm not putting a bar on my back and I'm not deadlifting or anything else, not heavy bent over rowing or anything like that. But this program will have some bent over rowing in it, maybe T-bar rowing, but it won't be heavy. I'll do the movements and stay in my lane, like I've said all the time. Try and keep things in my principles. But as I have the first week in that Padilla program, it gives you a little bit of a deload because it's not actually as hard as the end one of this one. So gone hard on the end of Nubret, you get like a little bit of a deload, and you build up again over the next 4 weeks, get a little deload again. Because you're starting something new, because you have to learn your way with that new program. Your lake, it's a starting program, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. That's why at the end of this 5 weeks, if you will, it's probably been the most challenging because you've adapted, you're getting
Yeah,
into the rhythm of things,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
It's 3 days though. You're sticking with the 3 days. So what if it's a I don't know, if one of these guys is doing like a 5 day split. Typically they weren't. It was mostly 3 day splits, right? That they were doing.
Yeah, they generally did 6 days a week back in those days. Like, for instance, Frank Zane might have done 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. I think he did that. I won't do that. I won't do 2 workouts back to back. I'll just keep within the program. He might have done like 70-degree high incline chest press. He might have not done bench press. I might use the Smith machine, which I'll set up something on the cable or whatever. I'll do something similar to the movements he did. Work it that way. It's enjoyable because what you're doing is you're studying each person for 5 weeks. I've got all my magazines out. I'm excited. I'm getting the
Yeah.
magazines out. I've got magazines from way back in the day. You can also find things on the net very easy now, if you know what to search for.
I think more people do this than you think, though. I think you're just the one talking
Yeah.
about it right now. Like, I think people want to know the routines because they want to extract something from it or they want to just straight up copy it, which is, again, this is very context specific what you're doing. If you're someone who's striving for the most productive thing that you could do for putting on muscle, that's a different story, right?
Different story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember in our first podcast, and you put this up on YouTube as well, and I said, look, Bill Pearl's my favourite bodybuilder of all time, but I couldn't train like him. Now, I
Yes.
may be able to do something along these lines. He either did a split routine where it was half his body one day and half the next, and he trained six
Right.
days a week with a lot of sets, and he'd pick a routine, and he would do that for 5 weeks, the same sort of routine. So if it was like incline dumbbell press and flat bench or decline bench, he would do the same routine for 5 weeks. That could be something as an option, but you shouldn't just blindly follow it and do like 6 weeks.
That's it.
All the time, I keep going on about this. It's got to fit to your lifestyle and your principles. I could train 6 days a week. It'd just tire me out, but I wouldn't look any better. I wouldn't. I feel like I get recovery doing this. My physique looks good. I can eat a really good diet, and yet I've got time for life as well, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm keeping it in my lane. I'm keeping the principles, which I have for me to be able to recover from it. I put my principles to those programs.
I wouldn't be surprised if most people who are in this, if you ask them, hey, what inspired this routine that you're doing? It's drawn from something or somewhere else that's
Yeah.
external. It's not like they just got it from themselves, right? Like it's
Yeah.
usually drawn from somewhere and something or someone, right?
You've got to ask yourself the right questions, haven't you? When you're trying to pick something up from a pro. You've got to think, look, they've got outside help. And if you're natural, how do I think I can recover from something like that? Because recovery is the key. You don't recover, there's no changes. So how do I take that from things I like from the athlete and that inspires me? How can I add it to me as a natural? How can I do that? And that's what you need to be thinking each time. So I use what's useful to you and absorb off people, absorb it and make it your own, but you've got to make it your own.
And that's what you're still doing, which is awesome, right? So you're wrapping up this Serge Nubret 5-week experiment, right? And what did that look like details wise? Like Serge Nubret was doing the chest, legs one day, a back, I think hamstrings the next, and then something like this, right?
He mixed up his routines quite a lot, but his basic one, he would have done chest and back. He trained like 6 or 7 days a week. But let's say the chest and back one. So I took the principles of him, how he trained his chest and how he trained his back, and then used it in my workouts. Like I said, put the pictures up on the wall and everything, and I've already got the Danny Padilla one ready for next week. So I'll do that with every one. It cost me a fortune getting these printed, but it's well worth it. This chest and back program, which I've been doing, it was bench press, shallow movement, which is really constant tension on the muscle. You're not like doing them too fast, although fairly good pace, like a machine. Be like a machine. So 5 sets of 12, something like that I did. I never supersetted anything other than his arms. Then we'd go on to flat flies. Hardly ever did incline. He did some inclines, but hardly did. So we did 3 or 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps on that. And then he had like a stiff arm pullover movement. I've got all the kit which I had when I was a kid. So we're using a lot of stuff, which is like, you know, the old inch diameter weights. Again, to make you feel like you're a kid. So you're not using the Olympic stuff because I didn't have Olympic plates and things. So I've got all these old weights, you know, rusty and everything else, which I've got a lovely gym, but yeah, I'm using these little old weights. So we used like a stiff arm pullover. So you lay along the bench, you're doing stiff arm pullovers. So you did that and then might do 3 sets of those, then go on to chins, 5 sets of chins, maybe 3 sets of a low pulley row. Now we used a curl grip with a very short bar. And did it, sometimes they did a T-bar, similar movement. It was just the same movement, but just variation, that's all. You either did the low pulley row or the T-bar row with a curl grip. The next workout will be shoulders and arms. He used to do a lot of standing behind the neck presses. So again, I've got this little inch diameter bar, like we had when we were kids, doing a standing press. Now, a lot of people wouldn't have the mobility for that. I do a lot of stretching. I'm very mobile. I can move okay, and I can do a standing press behind neck with no strain on my shoulders whatsoever. So I do that, and again, it's a 3/4 movement. And then he used to do like a lying lateral raise, where you lay on your side and you would bring the dumbbell towards your arm. So you'd be laid on your arm like this. There was pictures of him all over doing this, and we had them stuck on the wall. We loved that movement and used to do it all the time when we were kids. So it's been really good to sort of rekindle that movement, and it gets your side delt and your rear delt very, very much. You know, you really can feel that. And you just basically flipping back and forward that 15, 15, 15, 15. Or he did like a standing lateral, but he brought them from the hip area straight out with his arms really straight. And again, a few little things which he did, which are completely different. He used to on his leg extensions. I remember reading an article years ago where on every picture he had his hand on his thighs. He wasn't holding on. And I dug these pictures out again because I've got the old magazines and I dug them out. I thought, where's them articles on him training his thighs? He's doing leg extension. He's got his hands on his thighs and he's not holding him. Now I'm like usually like locked in, as much weight as possible, doing them high intensity fashion, jumping from that straight into leg presses, loads and loads of weight, and you're locking yourself in. So I've gone to like not even a third of the weight, but yet doing them with not holding on. And I wrote this in my articles on Substack. So you're doing your reps and it's only light, but your quality of feeling the muscle is much, much more. I don't know why you have to do them stricter. And I wouldn't think that would do anything, but I could not believe the burn in the lower quad. Then he did like a French squat, which I mentioned earlier, which was heels on a block, feet fairly close. He put his hands on his knees. So as he came up and his hands straightened, he knew he'd gone as high as he could. So it went from like right down, so this is his calves and ankles, and then he came up to probably about there. And his hands were here on the top of his knees, which allowed him to know that he only came that. Now we would do sets of 20 of those or up to like 300 reps. He would do rep after rep after rep. Now he had he didn't have huge thighs, but he had really good quality to the legs and like that separation and sweep. And if you do those French squats, yes, you think there was nothing to them. You would think, well, they're easy. Yeah, they are compared to like squatting with a big weight on your back, but it's not nervous system. It's complete direct muscle pain, and you can feel it, and your legs pump like they've never pumped before. You forget how much it hurt. And it reminds you of when you was a kid, because we did them a lot because we didn't have weights and leg presses and things. We might do leg extensions with a bench with a chest expander wrapped round our feet, doing it that way back in the day when we were kids. Not that I do that now, but very similar to do the basics. And it might be leg curls, 5 sets of 15 or so, rest pause in them as you need to. Now, it's not the standard rest pause as in high intensity rest pause. It's go till you can't stand the pump a little bit, get a little breather, carry on, till you can't stand the pump, carry on, till you get your 15. You get off, quick stretch, back on again. It's I go, you go. It's, if I'm on my own, I basically get off, quick stretch. It's as if somebody was with me, straight on again. You know, so you might only
60
have like,
seconds.
if not even that. If you're doing like pumping reps on bench press for 12, you're talking 30 seconds. By the time you've got on your 40 seconds, you know, I would say that'd be the right timing.
And you're able to hit the 15 each time. It's pretty much the last set where you're struggling to get it, or
the last 2 sets, you might have to rest pause them a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
It's honestly, it's
you got to choose the right load. You have to be smart about the loads you choose, though.
Oh yeah. That's what I said to you earlier. When you're working out over the weeks, you start with week 1 and you might not get the weights quite right. You might be a little bit light or it's a little bit heavy. So you're not actually getting the rep ranges. And then you can work it out the next time. You've got a week of steady and you've got 4 weeks building it up. So over those 4 weeks, when you come right to the end of that program, you're ready to jump into another one where you get like a little bit of a respite to be able to feel that program out, ready for moving on.
So there's progression though.
Still a progression there, yeah.
Yeah.
Very light progression. I mean, Vince, like I said, he's really strong. And we were I wanted to go to 10s this week. You know, I thought, right, I don't want to be doing 12, so I want to go to 10s. So I put a 1 1/4 aside, a 1 1/4 kilo. Oh no, sorry, it was a 2 kilo plate because we're using old weights. Couldn't even tell you what it would be in kilos because they're all in pounds and stuff, you know. So I put that on and he's like, no, putting that on. You know, and he slaps loads on top of mine and he still gets his reps because he's a really strong guy. He sneers at my little weights, but it made the workout much harder by only going up a couple of kilos.
Definitely will have people thinking, that's for sure.
It's really different. It is. It's like, people. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to ask you, what inspired Serge? Why Serge? Why Danny Padilla and not Ronnie Coleman, for example?
Right. Because I'm a kid of the 70s. If you're talking 76, 77, 1975 and 1976 were the red hot summers. And we just sort of started training then. I might have been 11-year-old. You know, I'd been doing some running and some press ups and some chin ups, and we were doing fishing and digging bait and things like that. So we were already quite active. You know, we started in that age, which when you go and buy magazines, them days, there were, it might have been Muscle and Fitness. I don't think it was still Muscle Builder at that time. But yeah, there was people like Danny Padilla in there. There was Serge Nubret and some of the other magazines we got. We got Muscular Development and I forget some of the names of the magazines now, but I used to know which shops those magazines would be coming in. And I'd be like, that comes on that Wednesday, that comes that following Thursday, and I'd know which shops around my town to go get them. And if I saw a magazine anywhere in the back of another magazine, I would take it to the shop and try and get them to get me it. Every newsagent knew me for coming in and buying the magazines. So I would use all the pocket money I had, all the work money I had from either rowing boats or, you know, digging bait, I would spend on magazines, and we would follow those programs that month until we got the next one. But Serge Nubret had a look to him, and he did exercises like I mentioned earlier, upright row, press behind neck, which we had the weights to be able to do, and we had like dumbbells which to be able to do those lying laterals. We had like something we could make up a leg extension. We had where we could do a French squat. So he attracted us first, and plus it was really ripped. And both me and my buddy Vince then, we were very sharp. You know, we'd be out all day in the sun and we'd brown, really dark tanned, and yet, you know, be really lean and we'd wear vests similar to what we would wear. Just excitement, that love of it before you get caught up in everything else as you get older.
No, for sure.
That's what I tried to recreate.
With the Danny Padilla workouts, what was his split real quick?
Chest and back shows that it's the same.
Similar,
split.
just a different, different principles that he followed.
Different principles and different workouts. Like we would do more exercises, whereas Nubret might do 2 for chest. He might have 5. So I will go now to doing a bench press, an incline bench, a cable, because he used to do a cable fly rather than a dumbbell fly in some of his articles I've seen. And he trained his abs a little bit different as well. So again, it'll be all new. Yeah. And then when I go to the Dickerson one, again, it's all new. All new. He did a little bit different as well. So I've picked similar but different.
Yeah. And you enjoyed the Serge Nubret cycle?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Cool. That's good to hear.
Loved it. Really enjoyed it. And it's been brilliant. And I finish it off I finish tomorrow.
Okay.
I finish tomorrow with the shoulders and arms one. And I'll start the Padilla one on Saturday or Sunday doing the legs. Because of the way I started this program when I got into it, I started on a Saturday and it runs Saturday to Saturday.
Serge Nubret, Danny Padilla, Chris Dickerson, Frank Zane. Yeah. Is that the 4? That's it?
That's the 4. Because what that does is take us up to going away to New York. My wife, Joanne, Lewis, my son, and his girlfriend, Jade, we're all going to New York. Now, Jade doesn't train, but us 3 do. So poor Jade, she's got to put up with us while we go to gyms, but we will go early. Remember me saying earlier, we will go early. We'll go to the gym early, get out of the way so she can get a little bit of a lie-in, and then we'll take her for breakfast. So we're going to do some sightseeing. I've been to New York 3 times. This is my 4th time. But each time I've been competing. So when you compete, you're focused. You don't see anything. I've seen nothing, you know. I've seen none of the sights, you know. I've not seen Statue of Liberty or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to going in some of the museums, spending proper time in Central Park and all the rest of it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, I hope you have a great trip. I really...
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we carved out the time to talk about this. I think it will be... Yeah.
You need to keep doing this because you do an absolutely fantastic job of interviewing people. You're very, very good at this. And I think you're offering a lot of service to people out there. And it'll grow and it'll grow and it'll grow. You're brilliant. I said to Joanne when you came in, I said, God, we can get on really well. We can really talk. And yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for asking me on again.
Of course. We'll have to chat again.
We'll
have to chat again.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the kind words. It really does mean a lot coming from you. So thank you.
You know, you're doing a good job, mate. You need to tell him you're spending a lot of time. You need to tell him that you do a good job. Well, you know you work hard and everything else, but it's nice for somebody to tell you that you're doing that. And
yeah, of course. It gives that extra push, you know?
You need to keep this end bit in as well because people need to know. People will go, oh, yeah, he does. You've got some lovely people out there and you're helping a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thank you, Ian. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye. Why don't we start with how are you currently doing things? What inspired that experiment, if you will? And just for those who haven't read the article, of course.
Last time we spoke, I had a bee in my bonnet about competing again, didn't I? I was like, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to compete. But then, as you start getting ready for it, it's not going to happen anymore. Look, I'm 58. I've done 80-something competitions, 82 competitions. I'd be just silly to put my body underneath that much strain. But what a lot of people don't talk about